Guys, I'm over at Tribal Cafe, so it's a little loud here, and I apologize. I'll give you a real quick update about what happened today, and then I'm going to get back to eating. But today, it was the defense's turn, and they brought in Mr. Rios, who is Pearl's ex. She had lived with him for about 6 months to a year. They were together, they had a child, and that is the youngest of, she's the youngest of all the siblings. So she, sorry about that. So she was, basically the father decided that he wanted to keep her after she kept coming home. Whenever he'd get her or she'd get dropped off, she would come home, there was like milk or vomit on her, and then she would also she would go to Pearl's fully dressed in new clothes, but she would always come back in just like maybe just a onesie or something, and it was always dirty. The other thing, I guess there was an incident outside his house, the parents' house, like when she lived with him, she lived with like his whole family. It was his mom, dad, and siblings. So when she first moved in with him, she lived by herself, and then eventually Virginia moved in, and then the mom said at one point it was all her kids, but it doesn't like she didn't specify which kids. So the father said Pearl wouldn't change the little baby's diapers, and instead of giving her like formula or milk or whatever, she would give her soda or juices. And she was like, we're talking about when she was an infant, so she would give her juices and stuff like that. So it was kind of weird, a weird parenting, I guess. Yeah, so apparently, so according to the grandmother or the mom, she would say that that the little baby would throw up, like she was an infant. She would throw up because she would be fed McDonald's, but she's an infant, so she's being fed McDonald's, like I said, soda and juices as a way of being parented. And that was the grandmother. And she also said that she didn't change the diaper, that she thought it was, you know, weird because the baby was eating all this weird stuff. So basically, while Pearl lived with her boyfriend, the grandmother, the mom, or the boyfriend's mom, would always take care of the baby to make sure that the baby was taken care of. So the baby was well taken care of when she lived there, and then when she left with Pearl, the baby was like dirty and always vomiting and stuff like that. So now, you know, now that baby's, you know, that baby, in my opinion, was lucky because, you know, her dad loved her so much that fought for her and kept her. So thankfully, you know, she's hopefully okay. So she had never seen Tone or Asaro before, but the ex-boyfriend had. He had seen him like twice. So it wasn't a big deal. What they were basically trying to say is that Pearl was neglectful and abusive to children, and they were just kind of trying to establish that. Detective Uribe came back. He was called back by the defense, and so like he said before, he was the original SVU detective while Gabriel was alive. Once the case was once Gabriel passed and the case was reassigned, but Uribe was still on, like he was, you know, probably helping out with some of the things. They just talked about the interviews that were done with Asaro, and basically they went over some of the details of like Gabriel got really mad about his about this statement that he told his mom to leave Asaro because Asaro was mean and would hit her or something. Again, they asked again about him asking if Gabriel was alive, if Gabriel was still alive. Like I said before, when he asked that, he sounded surprised to me. He didn't sound like somebody who cared like that he was still alive, but more like astonished that he was still alive. There was also this thing that they Well, I'll get there. So the first interview, again, Asaro said that his frustration level from 1 to 10 was 20. So they went over that again. And in one part, he was like the detective was saying, oh, you know, it was probably something you wish that hadn't happened or whatever. And Asaro said, yes, I wish I could go back. Which is, I don't know. I have my own thoughts and theories on that one. So one part he did say, can I go see him? But that was after he was surprised that he was still alive. It was a really weird way to ask. It was like, he's still alive? And then he was like, can I go see him? So it was really weird. Second interview was short, and they were talking about how Aguirre described Gabriel as like kind of advanced, and how he would, you know, if he would save his own money so he can buy himself something down the street at the store. But then that he talked back to them like he was 18. And then they just touched again on Aguirre losing his temper, and then he was kind of consistent with his story. So the story first was that, first that he fell, and then he was like, well, I hit him, and then as the interview went along, he admitted to how much he hit him, what he was hitting him with, how he hit him, and stuff like that. So it started off as, you know, like he started to tell the truth, and then it just got, he started telling the truth more and more. So it was a progressive interview. So at some point, the attorneys, the defense wanted to do audio-visual and transcripts because they wanted to prove that Asaro did have some sort of feelings about this. So they kind of talked to the judge, and there was this whole not off the record, but out of earshot of the jurors about just the different audio and how there was at least 4 different occasions that Asaro became emotionally distressed during the interviews, and there was a reason why that wasn't brought into evidence, and so they just talked about that. But they showed the clips, and in the clips, like at first there is one where he does cry. And there is one where he cries, and then the detective says, Gabriel deserves the truth, right? And Asaro's saying no. He's shaking his head no while he's crying. So I thought that was really interesting because the answer should be yes. You know, that little boy deserved the truth, yes. And the truth is that he beat him. That truth. Like, he deserved for this guy to admit what happened. He admitted that he realized he had gone too far when Gabriel stopped responding. So when Gabriel was unconscious, that's when he was like, oh, I've gone too far. So the clips basically show more emotion. And then on the cross-examination, they just kind of talked about what Uribe's state of mind was when he went to interview Asaro, because at that point he had already gone to see Gabriel in the hospital and see what kind of wounds he had. And he did say that he'd never seen anything like that on a child before. And then they went over this like emotions thing, like, do most of the like perpetrators, if they show emotion, if it's either regret or remorse and stuff like that. So they talked about that, and then at the end there was kind of an argument between the defense and the prosecution. Defense tried to make a motion for a mistrial, but based on a very detailed explanation by the judge, it was denied. But that was what happened today. And then also, one of the things I should tell you is that it looks like we have 2 more days of witnesses from the defense. After that, on Monday, it sounds like we're going to do the closing testimony. So this thing is almost at an end. Now I'm gonna look at the questions. Sorry, I was busy trying to wrap it up. So the people that testified were Pearl's ex, his mother, and then Detective Uribe. No, Pearl had a total of 5 kids. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 kids.
Kids when you use the promo code MTKOST. Got tickets to Litigant Times all this week.
Does he ever? Okay, so just so you know, Sorrow hasn't said anything. He's not saying anything. In the video or on the interviews, he never said anything about Gabriel being gay. That was just something he told the DCFS. Wait, I don't remember if he told the interview on that in the interview. If he said that in the interview, sorry, I don't remember on that. Why did the state of mind or emotion of the investigator matter? Sorrow was a weak little. Okay, so the reason is because you have to understand. So first off, you have to understand where we're trying to find intent. So when you're asking questions, you go in as an investigator. You got to go in knowing what you're going to ask and knowing how you're going to pull out the information you need to pull out from this guy. So in order, he had to be he had to know what he was looking at, what he was dealing with before going in there. So he had to use certain techniques in order to get the information he needed to get. That's kind of what they needed to know. Did they ever show the text? Okay, so the text messages were already addressed, like on a previous video. What is the purpose of this live stream? Bye, Bill. Seems like a waste to bound them. Bye, Crito. No, he was not sexually abused. I don't know why people keep saying that, but he wasn't sexually abused. He was abused. Don't get me wrong. And there were things done to him, and that on like his penis had damage, but he was not sexually abused that we know of. I don't know where Gabriel's dad is today. So there was, and that's one of the things that I don't really talk about too much, just because it's hard for me to fathom. But there was a red line going down the top of his penis, and there was also what may have looked like a healing burn mark at the base. The paternal grandparents have always been in Texas. And yes, his ashes are with them. If they, I mean, my assumption is. When the defense and the prosecution, yeah. I mean, but that's something that they have to do. They have to put up a fair fight for both of their sides. And that includes, you know, arguments of things that they see are incorrect. Because you got to remember that whatever that they pull, like whatever they say, like whatever motions they make or objections, these go on to record and later on can be used in an appeals court. So it's part of their jobs. They have to have those arguments. Okay, guys, I think that's about it. I'm gonna head to finishing up my lunch before I go to work. So we will. Can you guys get more coverage on this, the cruelty and the fuckers? So with the coverage, we are international. So do you think Pearl will win this stupid attempt to? She's not trying to plead insanity. Thank you so much. There is court tomorrow at 9:30. Again, there's at least 2 witnesses that I know of, and that I don't think it'll take too long, based on who the witnesses are. Basically, they're just trying to prove that Pearl was a bad mother. But I think at this point, it's kind of logic. We all know that she was a bad mom. She's not even a good person, what it sounds like. So luckily, I never met her. Yeah, exactly. We all know. So, okay, guys, I'm gonna log off. Thanks for watching, and have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.